Hello guys, gals, and non-binary pals. This is Justy coming back to you again. This time around, I'd like to talk about changes and my experiences on my first 6 months on hormone replacement therapy. As I said in my first video, um, I would like to have started these vlogs earlier in my transition, but having been unable to do that, I guess the best I can do is to talk about the things that more noticeable things that have changed since I began hormone replacement therapy, and maybe a little bit about some of the things that I've experienced even before that. So, uh, but in the last year anyway. So I'll start with some of the more noticeable changes, especially to people who view my videos. You are going to notice right away that unlike the first 3 videos or 4 videos that I didn't have any teeth, and so that's a big noticeable change. Had tooth problems all my life. I believe it was genetic, and partly as a result of neglect as a child. However, I now have been gifted with dentures, and it's wonderful. I can smile again, and I'm really happy with them. And the reason why I have them is because I have a very loving and supportive spouse who cares about me and cares about my safety, and she wants me to be sure that I am, able to present in a way that minimizes the danger that all transgender people face when they go about their daily lives, particularly in public. So, in the last 3 months, the other big change since the last video, you may notice that I no longer have gray and brown hair. And that's because I went to the beauty parlor finally, and hadn't had my hair cut at all in 3 years, trying to grow it out. But as a result, it was very split-ended, and I had to keep it in a ponytail because it was unmanageable completely. And of course, being an aging transgender person, this gal's hair was getting pretty gray. So that really helped me feel better about myself also, and it's a big change that has occurred just since my last video. Okay, so now going back a little further, like I say, that first 6 months on hormone replacement therapy, um, the okay, first of all, I would never advocate for anybody to do hormone replacement therapy without a doctor supervision. I happen to be in an area where I tried as I might, I could not get any kind of medical intervention. I couldn't find therapy. I couldn't get an endocrinologist in my area, and my family physician, who had been my family physician for 20 years, refused to treat me for my gender dysphoria and refused to even give me a referral to an endocrinologist or another specialist, or to order even blood work for me because he had his objections as a result of his belief system. So as a result, I felt forced anyway, to acquire my hormones online. And this can be very dangerous because you just never know. Uh, the supplier, are they going to be reliable? Is the medicine going to be top quality? There are a lot of dangers involved in this, even though I was paying out of pocket at a lab that would do my blood work without doctor's orders. So I was monitoring my levels of my hormones and my testosterone, as I was also taking testosterone blockers. I had researched this very well, and I pretty much knew what I was doing. And however, that was very fortunate because you can do the research and end up missing something or making a mistake, and you're trying to be your own doctor on a very complicated thing. Changing your gender medically is not anything to be taken lightly at all. And so, certainly would not recommend that. But unfortunately, I needed to do that, and I didn't feel I had the finances to go 200 plus miles away to the nearest major city to try to seek help. And so that's the position I was in. However, eventually I realized that I could not adequately interpret my blood work by myself, but also it's very expensive without insurance coverage to get, $250 every time I wanted to get my blood work done. And that was monthly. At first, you need to do it monthly, especially if you're being your own doctor. And so it was very expensive, and I realized that I actually would save money by making that long trip and trying to get set up with a doctor and a therapist in that nearby major city, well, fairly nearby. And so I ended up doing that about 3 months in. So end of last April, beginning of last May, I finally got to go and see a therapist. Shortly thereafter, I was able to see a physician as I was referred to a transgender specializing physician. And they immediately put me on the hormones I needed, which just happened to be exactly the same dosages and exactly the same medicines that I was taking before I went to see them. And that just means that I happen to have done a really good job of my research and also interpreted my blood work very well. But like I say, I got lucky. That's all I can say is that I got lucky, because all I would have had to do is just miss one little thing, and I could have been pretty screwed up by the time I got to that doctor. But as it is, things worked out for me. So now it's been 3 months since I have been on doctor supervised hormone replacement therapy, and that has been affirming. The therapy with the counselor has been helpful from a legal standpoint, as well as from a psychological one, especially because one of the first changes I noticed on hormone replacement therapy was what I'm going to call a emotional roller coaster, and it was quite a ride. Uh, I had already been through major depression, suicide ideation. Uh, I was close to checking out, I would call it, before I started transitioning socially last September, so almost a year ago. And then, wasn't long before I became really, really suicidal, and I knew what was wrong. I had studied it online, and I knew what my problem was. Of course, I had known deep down all my life, as you know if you've seen my previous videos. But anyway, so that emotional roller coaster was the first thing I noticed when I went on HRT. Beyond the depression I had experienced before transitioning, of course, transitioning helped a great deal with my depression. In fact, it took care of it. Not that I don't ever get depressed. I think all of us get depressed from time to time. But I'm not suicidal and have not been suicidal since I began to socially transition nearly a year ago. And then it really started to feel better, a lot better, once I started the hormone replacement therapy, and and later the therapy and the doctor's affirmation after that. So my therapist also was able to help with not only the recommendation letter for HRT to my physician, but also the letter needed for transgender people to take to court in order to get your name and gender marker changed. And she was able to provide me with that as well. I just got it the other day. And so very shortly, I will be going to my state capital to take care of that. And I'm so over the moon about that. I'm just very happy that that will happen. It'll just be another thing that will make me feel more congruent, as they say. All right, so yeah, emotional roller coaster. Once I started HRT, which really what I mean there is that I experienced very, very high highs and very, very low lows. And I really began to be able to experience emotions in a way that I had not been able to do so before. As I went through my testosterone driven life and chemistry, body chemistry, brain chemistry, uh, and the fact that I was in denial, I just had shut my emotions pretty much off. And it affected a lot of people very negatively, especially my family, because I didn't stay in touch with them very much. And it was really because I just was not engaged with my own emotions and was unable to really feel much of anything, especially of my disability, where I was also on serious painkillers most of those years. So, which I managed to get off of in order to transition with some help from my doctors. Just, I'm very fortunate. I had to be incredibly thankful in my journey, and not everybody has a journey like that. It's been a rough ride, but many people have it much rougher. At least I have a little bit of financial resources. I'm not dead broke, although I am now, but I wasn't to start with. Transition is not cheap. It's very expensive. It's very serious business. So I talk about very high highs and very low lows. Yes, I typical in that I can cry at the drop of a hat nowadays. I don't cry for no reason necessarily, but it doesn't take much to get me going. And before I couldn't cry to save my life. So not even right when I was considering doing away with myself a year ago. So, however, having said that, really high highs and really low lows, and you have these bad days, and there were 2 months there in the beginning where I didn't feel comfortable not presenting as myself, but also didn't feel like I was safe to go out because I didn't look very good, in my opinion, in the way I viewed myself at the time, and because I had low self-esteem. That's part of the process for me. And so I didn't leave the house for over 2 months. It was not fun. And I know that a lot of transgender people, when they start a transition, they go through the same thing. It's really, really bad. However, having said all of that, the truth is that I wouldn't trade away those lows and those highs that I now experience for the world. And the reason I wouldn't do that is because those emotions in me, they make me feel like I should feel. They help me, or rather they are part of me being who I am and always have been, and being able to live my life. Uh, I went full time right after I started with my doctor and my therapist, so I have been full time for a little over 3 months now, and things are fine for me. I haven't had any problems with the public at all, which is another very fortunate thing. And so I just want to say that after 6 months, yes, there have been some physical changes. I'm not going to focus on that very much. A lot of people will make videos and, they're trying to do the right thing. They're trying to help other trans people. And I feel I can do that and keep my channel pretty family friendly. So if you're somebody who is trans attracted or anything along that line, this is probably not the channel for you, unless you just like some, semi eye candy, if you want to call me that, I guess. I don't know if I would, but anyway, maybe sometimes on a good day. But you know, so I'm going to just tell you that at this point I have a good solid A cup up atop, that my lower section operates more like females than it once did. Still does operate. I will only just go that far to say. And that's very fortunate. That's not always the case with people that take HRT, hormone replacement therapy. Many of them aren't able to operate down there after a certain amount of time. Usually 6 months is long enough to know what's going to happen there. So I'm going to wrap this one up. That's pretty much a summary of what has occurred so far. I will probably go back and do a little bit of a deeper dive into some of it in the future, but I want to try to keep my videos fairly short. So y'all have a great evening. This is Justina saying bye-bye. And don't forget to subscribe and click the like button, and so that more people will be able to see these videos and benefit from them. Thank you.